Welcome to Ideagen TV. Today we are so excited to have with us the founder and CEO of Global Citizen Year, Abbey Falik. Abbey, welcome.
Thank you, George. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm equally excited to be here as well. It is an exciting moment, I think, because we are just about 8 years from the conclusion of the 17 global goals to achieve those goals. So we're in that, feels like it was yesterday that we were looking at the decade, and now we're at 8 years. So who knew? But equally exciting to be having this conversation with you because our global audience will no doubt be inspired by this conversation to hear more about you and about Global Citizen Year as the founder and CEO. And so I'd love to lean in right away and ask you, please describe for our global audience what Global Citizen Year does and how do you offer a distinct experience that young high school graduates are often unfamiliar with.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I feel like it's an auspicious moment as the world changes and changes again. Whether it's the SDGs or just reimagining global politics or pandemic response, I think there's never been a more important moment to be thinking about how we're investing in our next generation leaders and in a way that helps them see their sense of civic obligation in a global context, not just as an affiliation with a tribe or even a country, but actually a planetary association and sense of global citizenship. So Global Citizen Year is a not-for-profit social impact venture that is on a mission to transform the pathway out of high school into what comes next for young people worldwide. And the vision really began for me when I was finishing high school and had been a good student and checked the boxes and gotten into college. And I just felt like there was something empty inside, that even though I had achieved in the ways I'd been asked to, I wasn't encouraged to have experiences that would help me develop a deeper sense of purpose or a clearer knowing of myself in the world and what I was here for and why I was going to college in the first place. So in many ways, ever since then, and that's now more than 2 decades ago, I've been fixated on the need for new pathways for young people that can unlock passion and purpose, help them understand and reach their potential, and give them immersive experiences alongside the global majority, so that to the beginning of our conversation, they can't not commit their lives to doing something bigger than themselves.
And what incredible perspective that is on the work that you're doing. It's truly awe-inspiring on so many different levels. And perhaps we can go a bit deeper on how you see traditional higher education impacting students and the needs that are necessary to help sort of complete that, as they say in the UK, process. What is that process that really needs to take place? What are the gaps?
Well, I like that you use the term gap, because we've decided that what we do is not a gap year, but it's actually the year that fills in the gaps left by a more traditional education. We have construed an educational paradigm that trains kids to think that the purpose of high school is to get into college, that it's a high stakes game where you can't fail, you can't experiment or explore. And then you get to college and we shuttle kids through, but half of kids who start don't complete. And just 3% report having had a transformative experience in college. Meanwhile, you have 96% of college presidents saying that their kids are ready for the workforce, and 11% of employers agree. 11%. And so when we think about the time and effort and energy and resources that we're pouring into a traditional higher education system, we need to really step back and ask the question of whether the system is producing the outcomes that we care most about. And in our view, it's time to reorient our educational structure around the things that young people today most need to learn. And to be honest, these are things that can't be taught in a classroom alone. So we have a framework that we call the REAL 21st Century Skills, REAL, which stands for resilience, empathy, Agency and adaptability are the A's. And then the L is leadership. And we talk about leadership in a specific way. It's not a position or an arrival point or a title or a salary. It's a lifelong practice that begins as soon as a young person recognizes their ability to impact those around them. And in our view, we need to anchor on those core skills. They are uniquely human. They are essential to thriving in the world as it is. They are essential to both solving problems and accelerating solutions worldwide. And if we can't take this moment of the pandemic to step back and say, the old way of doing things wasn't working, it's not just about tweaking at the edges of the system. We actually need a radical reinvention around what the purpose of school is. And for too long, we've let school interfere with students' real education. And this is a moment to really revolutionize how we think about what a higher education can look like.
Real skills. I love it. I love it. And it's so incredibly real to use that context because these are skills that are so necessary, for success in life. And so, how do you select potential candidates for Global Citizen Year?
So we're looking for go-getters, for high achievers, but we don't look at test scores or grades. So we are selective, but in a way that looks and feels really different from how famous colleges in the US think about selectivity. We're looking for a spark of potential, a kid who has gotten something started from scratch, who's made the most of where they've started, where they've begun, who has inspired their peers to follow their lead on an issue that they care about. There's a spark that we feel like is the primary indicator that this young person's got the potential to become the kind of leader that our world needs. And then we're looking for deep motivation for what we offer, that they are finishing high school, they're being thoughtful and deliberate about this transition into what comes next, and that they're committed to sticking with an experience that by design is not easy. We think about, we all have a comfort zone, a stretch zone, and a panic zone, and we only learn in one of those zones. It's the stretch. And Global Citizen Year keeps our students in their stretch zone. So each year we are casting a wide net, recruiting young people on the cusp of adulthood from high schools worldwide, and inviting them to make a case for why they are the kind of emerging leader that we need today.
Abby, that is just incredibly inspiring. And so, as we look at those motivated individuals that are selected and the process that they undertake, do you believe that Global Citizen Year and your leadership methods should be integrated into either the high school and or university curriculums? Is that something that you're looking to achieve?
Absolutely. Even at the most ambitious scale of what we're trying to do, reaching 10,000 new leaders a year through a Global Citizen Year, which we aim to do in the next decade, it's just a drop in the bucket of what's actually needed. And so we're very committed to anchoring in what we're learning as proof points, as a blueprint for something that could be institutionalized and embedded in systems and structures of high school, of college, of pipelines into employment. So we spend a lot of time gathering data and then doing what we can to shape perceptions and practice and policy that could lead to a more systemic uptake of teaching and training that better aligns with these real skills.
And so, as you look at these leaders, these future leaders, what do you believe are the most critical qualities, these pivotal qualities that these future innovators should possess? Leadership, innovation. What are the key qualities?
I'm so glad you asked. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about this leadership as a practice framework, and there are a set of behaviors that we believe underlie the kind of leadership that our world needs. And the first is practicing curiosity before judgment, showing up with an open mind, being willing to learn and willing to let go of what you think you know in order to learn what you need to learn next. The next is about building empathy by connecting across lines of difference and really doing the hard work to listen and learn and potentially shift your perspective from what you thought you knew was true. We train our young people to practice aligning their lives with their convictions, figuring out what it is that breaks your heart, and then making sure that your words and actions and behaviors and decisions all align with what it is you care most about. Practicing having courage to do hard things, centering equity in your decision making. And ultimately, for us, it's also about diversifying the pipeline. We need leaders who represent a much broader set of backgrounds and lived experiences. And so in our belief, if we can change the face and the operating system, both of our future leaders, we've got a shot at shaping the leaders who can shape the world in the way that builds a future we all want to live in.
And so, what if these future leaders don't have necessarily these qualities, these sort of innate leadership tenets when they enter your program? What if? And can we then say they can be developed? Can they be learned?
Yeah.
Later in life? I mean, what is your professional opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, our equation is that if we can select for motivation and potential, we can then train young people to develop these leadership skills. And this doesn't mean that everybody's going to go out and be a breakthrough entrepreneur with a lot of visibility or the CEO of X, Y, and Z. Some of them will be, and that's fantastic. But we need citizens who are practicing, exercising their leadership skills and muscles around curiosity, conviction, and courage, wherever they find themselves, in whatever sector, in whatever seat. And so I wouldn't suggest that this means that all of our alum go on to be hugely visible in the public eye. That's a subset of the group. It's really about a new orientation that helps seed a different human capital pipeline. And if we can select, again, at the front end for young people who we think have this potential, and were it not for the experience they have with us, might not realize it, it's really about shifting their trajectory by 1 degree. And the sooner, the younger you can do that, the further from the origin somebody's life course will be.
That's right. And so as you look at partnerships, at Ideagen, we believe very strongly in the power of cross-sector partnerships and collaboration. We believe that many of the world's most vexing issues can be solved, in fact, when you bring together organizations from across sectors, leadership from across sectors, to begin to develop that common language, which is so important. You've got finance, you've got education, you've got healthcare. Everyone speaks a different language in their specific sector. And when you can break down those sector barriers, gosh, you have the recipe for an incredible solution set. Again, for many of these, most vexing issues in the world. How do you, at Global Citizen Year, implement partnerships across industries to further essential educational innovation?
So I couldn't agree more that the only way we make a dent on the problems we need to solve is by working across sectors. And I think we're seeing that the lines between the sectors are starting to blur in such important ways. And it's been a core premise for us at Global Citizen Year that we're not just equipping our next gen nonprofit leaders. I mean, to me, that's such a terrible term. It says what the sector doesn't do, nonprofit, as opposed to what it does. It's for social impact, for social change. And envision a day when the for-profits wouldn't use that as a term for themselves either, that we're all really aligned around solving society's most vexing problems. And so one of the ways that we do this is by putting our students in conversation with leaders across industries and sectors. So Sundar Pichai from Alphabet, Sheryl Sandberg, Laureen Powell-Jobs around her philanthropy have all been invited to a speaker series. They're almost, part of our teaching faculty, where our students have the opportunity to have a fireside chat with these extraordinary leaders who are shaping perspectives and influencing change, and can then inspire young people to see what's possible for them in their lives. And then we're also envisioning a global coalition that takes all this work to scale. So as one nonprofit independently, there's only so much we can own and operate ourselves. But imagine a day when governments all sign on to a global scheme that says, after finishing high school, young people worldwide should have a formation experience outside of their home country. And the governments sponsor the visas and help with logistics. And then you've got Airbnb opening homes around the world for students to have places to live, and networks of NGOs working on the ground, welcoming students as apprentices and learning and doing partners in their work on the ground. So that's really the big vision here, is that it relies on collaboration across sectors to get it done.
It relies on collaboration across sectors to get it done. I will have to quote you there. You're speaking our language. I love it, and I believe that the change that you're leading is so profound that there's no other choice than to scale it up across the planet. That's how important the work you're doing is, and I know you know that, but I'm just validating that over and over again, because I think you've focused in on what I'm about to ask you, which is these future global leaders. So why do you believe, Abbey, that high school graduates are the most influential demographic to target for the leadership experience offered by Global Citizen Year?
Well, religions and societies and sociologists and neurobiologists will all agree that there is a formation opportunity. There is a developmental sweet spot that occurs in late adolescence. So it coincides with the time in the US when a kid is leaving high school. They're transitioning from dependence to independence. They have the maturity to leave home, but they haven't yet established firmly their values and their identity, their sense of purpose. I look to the Mormons, who send this aged cohort out on a mission in the real world, which is as much about formation and developing identity and stick-to-itiveness, resilience, entrepreneurial flair and engines in young people, an ability to sort of adapt and be comfortable with ambiguity. The Scandinavians have done this for generations as well. So there's a template for treating this age as a rite of passage. And I am dismayed that in the US and most countries around the world, we don't take that opportunity seriously. We blow by it and sort of continue to shuttle kids from one stage of life into the other without creating a space where there can be a really meaningful transformation. And so that's the idea we're here to plant in the culture, is that is the most formative moment to intervene, and all coming together, we could change the cultural template in a way that then changes students, who change institutions, who change the world.
Changing the world. And so how does Global Citizen Year balance creating value for youth through teaching and lessons in leadership, but also, so not only through teaching, but also in social life and experiences?
We believe that school often gets in the way of someone's real education, and have developed a model that anchors on experience and scaffolds lived experience with coaching, curriculum, and a cohort that help keep you in your stretch zone. So many of the things that we are focused on as outcomes of our learning experiences, and that our data shows us where we're moving the needle and seeing significant gains, are not traditional measures of sort of college completion or starting salary or test scores. There's a thinness to so many of the things that we have decided collectively that we measure as success in education. And yet when we step back and think about who we want to hire, the kinds of roles that we see our own kids playing in society, and the types of skills and experiences that are going to most contribute to their ability to live in a world that's changing faster and faster, and where they need to invent jobs that haven't been invented yet. All of this requires a totally new paradigm, and really orients us around a model that fills in the gaps left by the other parts of the more formal, rigorous approach to academic learning.
Abbey Falik, founder and CEO, Global Citizen Year, thank you so much for the incredibly inspiring, insightful, and the lessons that you've shown us all today on helping to create these future global leaders. We can't thank you enough. How do we learn more about Global Citizen Year?
Check us out. Our website's globalcitizenyear.org. Well, you can find us on social media as well, Instagram, Twitter, soon to be TikTok. And you can follow me as well. I'm at Abbey Falik on the various social channels.
Abbey Falik, founder and CEO, Global Citizen Year, changing the world. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. Honor to be here.
It's our